Let's see if I can get my Sunday school lesson up. There it is. I gotta let this thing time out first. Okay. Okay, here we go. I got the Sunday school lesson in front of me now. Well, maybe I'll get used to this thing. Okay. Where are we at? Last week we talked about the consecration. And they agreed to everything that God has said that He commanded them. Told them the 10 Commandments, and He told them that they would agree with everything that was said there. Okay, and so, and they did the ceremony of the blood, or they did the sacrifice. They sacrificed the bull. They collected the blood, and then they sprinkled the altar, and they sprinkled the people. And so both the people and God had parts in this consecration, or this what do I call it?
Covenant.
Covenant. Thank you. With this covenant, there's two-part covenant. God's part and our part. What do we do? Well, we fail on our part a lot of times.
Amen.
And so, who would have thought that, how quickly, I think next week's lesson is dealing with the failure on their part. And it was only, 40 days into the new covenant. 40 days. It lasted 40 days. So they made this covenant, and they saw God, and they weren't killed. Matter of fact, they ate in His presence and drank, and they feasted, and God didn't wipe them out, because if anybody sees God, they would. The thing that they noticed, though, wasn't so much of what God looked like as what He was standing on. You remember that? He was standing on like what looked like the sky. It was a hard sky, basically, a bright blue, paved. I think one scripture says sapphire, that looked like sapphire. I'm thinking that's the right stone. I slept since then, and I can't remember. But I was thinking I was recalling that it looked like sapphire. It was a bluish hard pavement that God was standing on, and that was all the description we have of God. Was what He was standing on. And it's interesting. Okay. So after that is where we pick up. And who would like to read verses? Who would like to read verses 12 to 14?
I get it.
Okay, good.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me unto the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tablets of stone, and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest keep them. And Moses rose up, and his minister Joshua and Moses went up into the mount of God. And he said unto the elders, Tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them.
Okay. All right. The Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tablets of stones, and the law and the covenant, which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. Okay. So Moses getting another summons to go up. You know, even Moses doesn't go into the mountain until when? He is called. Because we see here that he waits. That's in the next part, I believe. And he has to wait there. But he's getting ready to go back up, and so so Moses rose up. Okay, I got to go up to the mountain, and so he's going to. Who does he have with? And he says, and Moses rose up, and his minister Joshua and Moses went up into the mount of God. And so he's taking Joshua with him, and this is the second time that Joshua is mentioned in the scriptures. I shouldn't say the second time. It is the second time that he gets mentioned in the scriptures as we follow it in our lesson. As you go through the scriptures, this is the second time that he's mentioned. The first time we see Joshua, he is in the battle with the Amalekites, and that's where you remember Aaron and Hur were both holding up Moses' hand, and anyhow, they're holding up his hand, and Joshua is in the battle, leading the armies of Israelites against the Amalekites, and every time that his hands come down, they will lose ground, and every time they raised their hands and kept their hands up, they were gaining ground. And this went on all day. All day. Gotta scratch my nose. Can you imagine? Okay, I don't know. You can get all kind of crazy, but it just it's amazing here. So Joshua is he is what is he called here? He called a minister, an assistant or type of person. He is kind of showing, okay, this is the second time. First he was looked at as what? Like a general. Now he's looked at as like an assistant. Okay, so we're beginning to see a picture here of Joshua and who he was. He's developing. And we don't know how long it took them. I mean, this is only, 4 months into this association. Well, I guess maybe longer than that. It could have been up to a year, because it took them over a year to get out of Egypt. They just didn't they didn't have the 10 plagues in one day and walked out the next. They had the 10 plagues over a year long. And then with the 10th plague, they left, and then they came from that point on. It's been about 3 months from that. So possibly Moses had seen and recognized Joshua for up to about maybe a year and a few months. But that's my speculation. I mean, that's possible, but it's all speculation.
Well, don't you think that at this time Moses probably knew that Joshua would be his successor?
Mm-hmm.
And he's in training.
I don't know if he did or the fact, but he looked promising. He was what, 40 years younger?
Yeah.
40 years younger. Moses is only 80 years old. Only 80 years old because he was 120. But but he's 80 years old, and I don't know. I mean, you guys came across this when these young guys at work in their 40s. They got a lot more stamina than I do. And you're impressed and you're willing. And I'm only talking about 20 years. Can you imagine what 40 years looks like to a guy who's leading? And Moses is smart enough to know that you need to start building for the future. He's smart enough to know that, but whether he does recognize it, we don't know. But one of the things we do know is he was their general, and now he's a personal minister here. So we're seeing some things about Joshua here, and then he talks to the elders. He's telling them to tarry here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur, and we met them both. That's Aaron's brother. Aaron is Moses' brother, older brother. And Hur, now we don't know exactly who he is here. But all that we know is that he was the other guy holding the other arm up. And now, I've peeked ahead in our Sunday school lesson. I did that. In between the two Sunday school lessons, I looked at what they were talking about in the cloud. And I happened to notice that her grandson is mentioned in those passages. His grandson, so we know that he's older. We know that Hur is older. And that may be why Hur was not in the battle fighting, because he was older. 80 years old, you don't want somebody 80 years old trying to wield a sword or stuff, maybe. I don't know. But he was a grandfather at least, so that puts him about my age, maybe. And maybe older. But he was looked at as someone, trusted like his brother. He was trusted like a brother, but he was, he wasn't the future, you might say, but he was trusted like someone with now. What I found out about Hur's grandson, though, he was blessed by God. He was in charge of all building the ark. He was given the skills of an architect, of a craftsman, and he built the Ark of the Covenant. And he learned he had the knowledge of how to overlay all the things with gold, and how to set the stones in place on all these things. And he was given these skills by God, and he given all kind of wisdom and knowledge on this. God bless Hur's grandson. That's interesting to me. That okay, there's a what kind of man that maybe the grandfather might have been. Because let's face it, what you teach your kids, follows down the line a little bit. Not to say that they are responsible for the same thing you did, but sometimes good practices follow the next generation, and that's always a good thing to see. That's what makes Ben proud of grandsons and stuff, and it looks like to me that Hur is going to be, when he finds out what his grandson's going to be doing, he's going to be a proud man in this thing. And now, we don't know what Hur, I don't know any other places where Hur is mentioned, but that's what we know about him. His grandson is given skills to help build things that were going to be used in the temple, or tabernacle. He says to tarry there until we come again. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. They were going to be in charge. Okay. So he's setting things in order before he goes up to the mountain. Okay. And so who'd like to read verses 15 to 18? Let's look at those passages. Go ahead, Tim.
And Moses went up unto the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud, and gat him up unto the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay. Moses went up to the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And we've seen this. And I was always thinking, like a cloudy day when when the clouds are over in front of the mountain and you can't see past it, and that's what we usually see. But is that the description here? Look at it carefully. If you look, let's see. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the mountaintop in the eyes of the children of Israel. I mean, fire. This is not. There's an illustration of somebody's giving a testimony about him being up in the mountains and they had fireworks and how quickly that fire was spreading up the mountain, and I can imagine just that dry desert stuff just goes up like that, and it's so dry that it just burns hot and fast, and here they got this cloud here, and they got fire in the thing, and it's engulfing the top of the mountain. You know that something's there. They were told it, the Lord was on that mountain, and they were not to go up. And Moses did not approach. He stayed just below the clouds for 6 days. For 6 days. This glory of God was, I remember a fire by night, a pillar of fire by night, and a cloud by day. You combine those two, and that's what you seem to have up in this mountain. And it's consumed, and it's, I can see, I picture some of these movies I've seen where, they got the cloud and fire kind of shown in the background of this thing, and and they're waiting next to this thing, and for 6 days. And then the seventh day, he called Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire top in the eyes of the children, in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and gat him up into the mount, and Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. And so can you imagine going in to this cloud cover? I don't know if you've remember seeing the pictures of the towers coming down, and how the clouds, as the dust clouds come towards them, they were just engulfing the people as they were. Can't remember. That's a movie. I've actually seen the cloud cover that myself, actually, but it's just overtaking. And here Moses is walking up into that. Actually, that's a scary thought. But he was waited until he was summoned. Oh, just side note, I just remembered about Hur. We do know that he is of the tribe of Judah. He was of the tribe of Judah. Hur was. And anyhow, it's just a side note. I just thought I'd throw that back at you.
This is more of just shows the glory or the power of God. And Moses didn't eat anything for 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah, that's
Eat or drink.
eat or drink. I mean, okay. What it looked like to the children of Israel was not what it looked like to Moses, I do believe.
Right.
Okay? What it looked like to the children of Israel, he was enveloped into this cloud. We don't know what happened to him. We don't know if he got burned up as far as that goes. That's their thinking. He's gone. 40 days, we don't hear anything. I don't know if they were told that he was going to be gone for so, but he said to wait. Now, what we find out in between the chapters in between this lesson and the next lesson is that Moses went up there to receive instructions about the tabernacle, about how they were to how it was going to be constructed and who's going to help, and their responsibilities. This is where God gave them two tablets of stones written front and back, and by God, written in stone, and Moses. Yeah, I mean this is intense. Okay, can you imagine somebody says, okay, we're going to go over these things, and we're going to go over it for 40 days and nights, and we're going to be going over these things, and this is what I got for you to do, and only get a 40 day seminar on it, and then that's it. You're on your own, and kind of it seems like. But one of the things he is given here is he's going to be letting Moses, God is going to let Moses know that he has given people with skills to do the job. We are given the skills to do our own jobs. We are unique people. God has chosen us. We have our circle of influence, and we need to be faithful to that influence as God gives you strength and ability to do that. And one of the biggest influences we can have is over prayer, the power of prayer. We saw what Hur and Aaron were able to do. They were older men. They couldn't do the fighting. God didn't choose them to do the fighting. What did they have them do? Prayer warriors. Some of us are given the strength to do things, but they were doing strength as prayer warriors. God has set up we're not going to get into the failure of the people during this time, but we're
Well, if there's any problem, I forgot, are
They-
they
they-
supposed to straighten it out or send?
they were supposed to have Aaron. They have two guys that were. If you have the biggest problems, you go to your Aaron and you got her. These are two men that I've chosen, and they can settle. They have the authority to settle the matter. I didn't leave you without someone. And yeah.
It is kind of amazing though. You stop and think about what Aaron knew, because he had been with Moses ever since Moses came back, that he would build that golden calf for them to worship.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing,
Why did he even go that direction?
Amen. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? I'm not judging the man because
No,
they
because-
have a right to do that, but it does make you
When
wonder.
God opens the picture, we right now we're looking at, we're probably looking at Aaron with these big old planks in our eyes. We can see your problem. we identify your problem, but we can't see the big old planks in our own eyes because we can see other people's problems. But
There's no doubt that he was pressured into it. But,
yeah. I think he was a little bit scared.
Yeah, he was intimidated, I'm sure.
Now, when did Moses was told that things were happening down? It wasn't when he was coming down that he saw this. He had basically
God
had to.
told him they were
We're going to
gonna
see
miss
that
it.
actually, I don't know. We're going to see it, but
Yeah.
I'm reading those verses beforehand. God is seeing this action going on, and He is telling while they were up in the mountain, under the cover of the cloud and fire. God is telling Moses what was happening up there. You need to get down there, and basically, God told them, "I'm going to wipe them out." Now, I don't know who the testing was. The 40 days and 40 nights was a testing. But who was actually being tested? You ever think about that? Who, 40 days, if you look at the bulletin, Tina has put in there a thing about numbers and stuff. And, Moses, we had rain for 40 days and 40 nights. We had Moses in the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. We had Jesus in the wilderness for how many? 40 days and 40 nights. Now, was it for Moses to have being tested? It might have been.
It might have been to some degree, but I think it was the people, really.
It was people. I think it was all of them. I think everybody included. And probably ought not get into this because I won't have anything to talk about next week. But
Yeah, we are straying a little bit there.
yeah, but 40 days. Who was really being tested? Let me just leave you with that. Who was being tested? 40 days and 40 nights. And maybe we can remember to talk
I
about
think
it
it's
next
for
week.
all of us yet today.
Yeah.
Amen.
How are we going to react? Okay. The test. There was a test for Moses. There was a test for the people. There was a test for Aaron.
Definitely.
There was, how are we going to, and so we'll leave that with next week's question, I think, because we're running out of time anyhow. But that's just got kind of interesting here. Maybe we can look at it and says, just consider this week who's actually being tested. If you want to read the sections between the next 3 or 4 chapters, talks about what God and Moses were talking about up there in the design of the temple and how it was going to be taken care of. Like I said, it's good readings and find out some important things. And with that, I'm going to close Sunday school report.